How much does it really cost to live in China as an international student? Not what people say in forums, not what you heard on TikTok, but real numbers. Accommodation, food, transportation, and extra expenses. Because tuition is one thing and how much you actually need each month to live comfortably is something very different. In this video, I'm going to break down the real cost of living in China as a student in 26, so you can plan properly instead of improvising. Hello foreign friends, I'm Ted, and I'm part of the LivinChina team. If you're considering studying in China, whether for a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a language course, this video is essential because here we talk about real budgets. And before we begin, give this video a like and subscribe, because here we talk about China with clear numbers and without selling fantasies. When we talk about the cost of living in China as an international student, accommodation is the first factor that really impacts your budget. The most common and recommended option for international students is to live in university dormitories on campus. On average, the annual cost of a room on campus can range from $400 to $1,200 per year, depending on the city and the type of room. In cities like Nanjing or Guangzhou, it is easier to find options in the lower range, while in Beijing or Shanghai the price usually gets closer to the upper range. Most university dormitories offer shared or single rooms with shared bathrooms, although there are also options with private bathrooms, which raise the cost a bit. Living on campus not only reduces expenses but also makes adaptation easier, because you are close to classes, libraries and university services. That is why many students choose this option at least during their first year. Now, if you decide to rent an apartment outside campus, the budget changes considerably. In large cities like Shanghai or Beijing, a small apartment can cost between $400 and $800 per month. In more affordable cities, the range may drop to around $300 to $500 per month, but even then it is still a much higher expense compared to university housing. In general terms, if you choose to live on campus, accommodation may represent between 20% and 35% of your total annual budget. And here we can already see something important. China can be affordable, but choosing the right city and type of housing can completely change your financial planning. The second important part of the cost of living in China as a student is food. And here there is good news: eating in China can be quite affordable if you know how to organize yourself. On average, a student can spend between $150 and $350 per month on food, depending on the city and lifestyle. If you eat inside the university campus, the cost can be even lower. A meal at a university cafeteria can cost between $2 and $5. That means that with around $8 to $12 per day you can cover breakfast, lunch and dinner without a problem. Many international students who eat mainly on campus manage to keep their monthly food expenses close to $180 or $220. Now, if you prefer international restaurants, frequent Western food or daily delivery apps, the budget can easily rise to $300 to $350 per month. In large cities like Shanghai or Beijing, international restaurants are more expensive, while in cities like Nanjing or Chengdu, prices are usually more moderate. It is also worth mentioning that cooking for yourself can help you keep your budget more under control. Shopping at local supermarkets is relatively affordable, although imported products can be more expensive. In general, food in China is usually not the heaviest expense for students. In fact, if managed well, it may represent between 20% and 30% of the total monthly budget. Everything depends on your habits and financial discipline. Transportation in China is one of the most favorable aspects for international students. It is efficient, modern, and compared with many Western countries, quite affordable. On average, a student may spend between $20 and $50 per month on public transportation within the city. A metro ride usually costs between 50 cents and $1.50, depending on the distance. Buses are often even cheaper, sometimes costing less than 50 cents per ride. If you live in university housing on campus, in many cases you only use transportation for occasional outings, which reduces monthly expenses even more. In large cities like Beijing or Shanghai, the metro system is extensive and very well connected, making it possible to move around without needing a car. In smaller cities, distances are usually shorter and costs can be even lower. Now, if we talk about intercity transportation, such as high-speed trains between cities, prices vary depending on the distance. A trip between two major cities can cost between $30 and $100, depending on the type of train and class, but this is no longer part of the fixed monthly budget. These are occasional travel expenses. In general, transportation is not usually a heavy burden within the total budget. In fact, in most cases it represents less than 10% of a student's monthly expenses. This is a major advantage when compared with other countries where transportation can be significantly more expensive. Now let's talk about the expenses that are often not mentioned but are definitely part of the real budget as a student in China. Here we are talking about health insurance, phone service, internet, academic materials and social life. Health insurance for international students usually costs between $100 and $300 per year, depending on the university and the coverage. It is mandatory and is normally paid together with tuition. A mobile phone plan is quite affordable compared with other countries. A monthly plan with mobile data can cost between $10 and $25 per month, depending on how many gigabytes you choose. Internet on campus is often already included in the residence fee or comes at a very low additional cost. As for academic materials, most resources are digital, but you can still consider around $100 to $300 per year for books, copies, or specific materials depending on your major. Now, leisure and social life depend a lot on your lifestyle. Going out to restaurants, international cafes, the cinema, or traveling within the country can add between $100 and $300 per month if you have an active social life. If you are more organized and careful with your spending, that amount can be lower. On average, extra expenses can represent between $150 and $400 per month, depending on your habits. It is not an extreme amount, but it definitely needs to be included in your annual planning. If we combine everything we've just discussed, we can get a much clearer picture of the real cost of living as a student in China. On-campus accommodation between $400 and $1,200 per year, food between $150 and $350 per month, transportation between $20 and $50 per month, extra expenses such as insurance, phone, dollars and leisure between $150 and $400 per month, depending on lifestyle. If we make a balanced average estimate, a student can live comfortably in China with a total annual budget ranging from $6,000 to $10,000, including tuition and organized student living. In more affordable cities, that number may get closer to the lower end. In larger cities like Beijing or Shanghai, it may get closer to the higher end. The key is not only the country, the key is planning. China is not free, but it is also not unreachable. With clear numbers and the right strategy, it can be a solid international option without falling into extreme debt. Most people do not give up on studying abroad because they lack ability, but because they lack clear information. And when you see the numbers properly broken down, the decision stops being emotional and becomes strategic. If you are considering studying in China in 2026 and want to know exactly how much you would need depending on your city, degree and lifestyle, at LivinChina, we analyze your case in a personalized way. We do not work with general assumptions, we work with real planning. If this video helped you, let us know in the comments. And now I want to ask you an important question. What would be your realistic avatars to study abroad? $6,000, $8,000, $10,000? Write it in the comments and also tell us which country you are watching from. That helps us better understand your context and create more specific content for you. See you in the next video.